welcome to the Total Soccer Show and the Bulletin. It's our soccer news roundup. And today we're looking at Liam Rosenior's 23-game spell at Chelsea to figure out what went wrong and what comes next. We're looking at Columbus's new NWSL expansion. We're talking transfers and so much more. Stick with us. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, it's Taylor Rockwell. What are you doing here, Taylor? Nice to see you.
I am contemplating if any manager will ever make it more than like 3 months at this point. It seems like that's the Premier League era we live in. I feel like it's all inspired by George Costanza from Seinfeld, quibbling over whether he worked at a company for 4 days or 14 days. That feels like what Liam Rosenior is going to be doing with the rest of his LinkedIn resume from now on.
Bless him. Well, he might not need LinkedIn with that payoff he's got for Chelsea, to be fair. Must be nice.
There is that.
Yeah. Very good.
Although I've heard that they have provisions in place. We're jumping right in. They have provisions in place for like, if we do sack you early, maybe we don't have to pay you everything. So maybe he will need LinkedIn sooner rather than later.
Maybe he will. For the soul, if anything. Graham Ruthven, hello, how are you?
I'm good, Ryan Bailey. Taylor, just very quickly off what you were saying there. Duncan Alexander, who is Oily Sailor on Twitter, who works for The Athletic, used to work for Opta, he had an excellent fact yesterday after the dismissal of Liam Rosenior, and that fact is there have been more managerial departures in the Premier League this season than direct free kick goals. What a league. Which is remarkable.
In 26, right? Not in 25.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, it's this year, which is still remarkable that there's... Yeah, because it's not the full season of managerial departures. It's just this year. So still a like-for-like comparison.
Did he put like a single word at the end of his fact, like tumultuous, period? Or was there something like that? That's the Opta way, as far as I can tell. Oily, yeah. Period.
Yeah. Hello, Joe Lowry, by the way. How are you? Were you dismayed that the handle Oily Sailor was taken when you went to Twitter originally?
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, I used to be Joe in cleats, and I know how much Graham loves cleats, so then I changed my name completely because of Graham and for no other reason. And I was trying to get Oily whatever it was, and I couldn't get Oily anything, which, shocking, really. On Taylor's front about talking about how I wonder if we're ever going to get a manager that lasts any length of time. I was thinking the opposite. I mean, Rosenior had a nice long run at it compared to some of the other moves we've seen so far this year. I think Chelsea were very reasonable in how they went about this. I think they gave him all the time they possibly could have, and I think the next person they get will save him, and yes, this is opposite day.
By Bielsa standards, he did get some time. Was it Bielsa and Lazio was like 7 hours? So,
His dad, I think, was sacked. Leroy Rosenior was sacked after, I think, 10 minutes as Torquay United manager after they went into administration. So, by that standard, that's generational progression right there.
Turkey United, did you say?
Torquay.
Yeah, okay.
I dare you to try and spell it, Joe.
Turkey.
Nailed it.
What an idiot.
There's a Q in there. Wow.
They called you an idiot, Taylor. Did you hear that? That's crazy.
Wow.
All right.
It's a bizarre spelling. There's no way Joe's ever going to get it.
Do ham next, Brits. Let's see how you ruin that one.
It's key in the nautical sense.
All right.
It being on the coast. Let's get into
Joe doesn't understand nautical.
Joe, you said tumbleweed?
Yeah. Yes, you don't have the nautical things in the desert, of course. My apologies, Joe. We will get to Liam Rosenior in great detail in a second. Before, I will tell you about patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. It is the best way to support us. You'll get bonus episodes, bonus video, and access to our Discord. All the cool kids are in there. And in case you didn't know, June 11th, 2026, the opening night of the World Cup. Graham, something else is happening besides the opening World Cup games, is it not?
That's right. TSS World Cup Live at the El Rey Theatre in Los Angeles, June 11th, as Ryan says. We're all very excited about it. We could do with selling a few more tickets, so if you're thinking about coming along, please do. It'll be a great night, even if you're not going to the US game the next night, which it seems like, is anyone going to be at SoFi Stadium on June 12th for that USMNT opener? But yes, please come and see us. We'll put on a good show. I think we're maybe going to have some merch on sale. You'll get to meet my brother, who apparently looks identical to me. He's better than me, so he'll be there. And as we've been discussing in the Discord, we're maybe going to a bar afterwards. So it'll be a TSS extravaganza. Buy tickets, nice. TSSWorldCup.com.
Very good. Guys, have we decided which Rutherford we're going to have on the panel for that night?
I mean, the brother, right?
Yeah.
The better one, which is Neil.
Better.
He's a software engineer who used to be a carpenter. So much more useful than me.
He could build us a live show. Really.
Yeah, exactly. What can I do? Nothing.
Very good. Excellent. Yes, that one is $25 plus fees, by the way. If we, on the evening, it's quite possible we could all go on the FIFA website and get tickets to the US game for about the same price as the TSS live show. So
that's the other side of the conga that we were talking about. Conga to the event, and then straight out of the event and straight into SoFi Stadium on a Groupon.
I want to be clear. I was never talking about a conga.
We were, Joe.
We were. Yeah. We've got some. We'll talk after the show.
All right, fill me in later.
I just feel bad. I just want to be clear. Graham, you provide immense value when it comes to really bad takes on food and theme parks. You're exceptionally good at those things.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, I think.
There you go. Monetize it, Graham. There you go. TSSWorldCup.com for more info, please, and thank you. TSSWorldCup.com. All right, let's get to the Chelsea news, shall we? Liam Rosenior is out at Stamford Bridge after the 3-0 loss to Brighton on Tuesday, which the scoreline, frankly, flattered Chelsea a little bit, to be honest, in that one. He had 23 games in charge. He's gone 3.5 months into his 6.5-year contract. Accounting hack unhacked. Yeah, Chelsea lost 5 successive league games without scoring for the first time since 1912. The last time they did that was when the Titanic was still a sea-bearing vessel.
That's also Rosenior's fault, by the way.
Yeah,
they've gone back
it
and attributed blame correctly.
Excellent.
The iceberg, if you think about it, we're berging ice. And that's,
Yeah.
that's what they didn't factor in at the time.
It's because the Titanic didn't respect the ball. It's his own fault.
The crew didn't gather round the captain in the middle in a circle.
Didn't respect the ball. If you were doing the presser afterwards, he'd be like, "Look, I know the watchman should have spotted the iceberg, but the buck stops with me. That's on me. It's all my. Oh, you were actually blaming me and holding me accountable. Oh no.
Oh.
And now here we are.
Icky.
There you go. Callum McFarlane is back in charge as interim manager. You may remember him. He had a couple of games when Maresca left as well. He's aggressively ginger bearded, but he'll be back in charge for the foreseeable future. I thought Taylor. Rosenior's comments after the Brighton game were quite telling. He said, "That was unacceptable in every aspect of the game. Unacceptable in the attitude. I keep coming out here and defending the players, but that's unacceptable tonight. Something needs to change drastically right here, right now." Something did change drastically, it seems, at Chelsea. But it seems like he inherited a difficult situation, did Liam Rosenior. He doesn't seem to have been a good fit for the team, unfortunately, for him. But, he's lost the dressing room, it seems, from those comments, definitely. But
Because there's more than one at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah,
there's literally doesn't know where it is.
Indeed, he doesn't know which part of the trading floor to head to sometimes. But I suppose, Taylor, we have to have some sympathy for him because he seems to be, in some ways, the symptom of a bit of a flawed model that's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have immense sympathy for him because he is thrust into a job. I'm not going to even get into like the qualifications. That's an argument that's been made that he was never qualified in the first place. Like, maybe not. I don't know. I feel like we've seen managers with less experience take over big gigs and have success, and a lot of that has to do with the desperation of the situation leading to the club actually backing them and actually kind of sticking with them. And in this case, that may have almost worked to his disadvantage because coming in with kind of the branding of Mr. Blueco and like Blueco's man to solve things and Clear Lake's guy on the ground, like I think he has there's this idea that he is just sort of like handpicked. He's brought over by their sister club and, one coach for another. What could go wrong? It speaks to, I think, a lack of understanding by the Chelsea ownership in how to run a club and what managers do. And I think he's put into a situation in which players instantly don't really respect his authority pretty clearly. It seems like he, I think, tried to engage with the Spanish-speaking contingent of Chelsea, and that didn't go over particularly well, or he wasn't as effective in that communication, so a slight rift forms there. But a lot of the reporting to me, if you read between the lines, seems to be the players were sort of inclined to find a rift with the manager. It doesn't seem like there was ever a ton of buy-in. It doesn't feel like there was ever a ton of consistency or chemistry or camaraderie in this Chelsea team. And so you bring in somebody like Liam Rosenior, and then you don't really back him, or you don't sort of give him the dreaded vote of confidence, whatever it might be. But it feels to me like you're just not really giving him an opportunity to exert authority and show that he is in charge. And what you are showing to future managers is if a majority of the squad starts to be frustrated and starts to down tools, we're going to fire you because that's the change we can make. And that's not just inexperienced managers who've had that happen to them. That's plenty of world-class and Champions League winning managers who've been shown the door by Chelsea. They're on I think now they will soon be on their 10th permanent manager in 10 years, something like that. Not really the mark of consistency that you might be looking for if you're their next manager.
Yeah, I mean, he was set up to fail, right? Liam Rosenior. I think we all felt that. That's not revisionism. When we discussed this when he was appointed, I don't think any of us felt very confident about not just his quality as a manager, just the situation in the club he was going into. And this is probably going to.
It was mostly the pronunciation of his name that I felt least confident about. But then after that, it was everything else. Yeah,
still not very confident about that pronunciation. I think I ditched that after a couple of weeks and just went
Liam,
back to.
is that it?
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I think this is the most I've ever felt like Joe, frankly, because, and I tweeted about this a couple of days ago, sacking Rosenior is just not going to change anything in the grand scheme of things for Chelsea. And that's kind of, it's two different debates between his quality as a manager and then like Chelsea as a club. Because, Taylor, I hear what you're saying about his qualifications, but at the same time, I never felt like there was anything to suggest he would be successful at Chelsea. I think Vincent Kompany is maybe someone you're thinking of there, but Kompany had at least at Burnley, they played a very distinct style of play that you could then extrapolate forward and say, well, a big club, maybe that'll work. Liam Rosenior, not his dad, he never really showed that at Strasbourg. Like, I remember the discussion back when he was appointed, it was like, well, this is kind of how they play. It was essentially just he was on the payroll and they moved his contract over to Chelsea. So I never thought that he was overly qualified for the job. We never really got any evidence while he was in the job that he was up to the standard. There was all the cringy LinkedIn stuff, but in terms of how Chelsea played, we never really seen him implement a style of play. But I just don't think Chelsea are set up for success the way that they operate, the way they sign players. Amazingly, they seemed to be onto a good thing about 12 months ago, towards the end of last season, when they did seem to be making progress. And then they made a bunch of squad changes because that's their model. And I just don't think they're set up to be anything real. And they've created this managerial position that isn't a real managerial position. It's a coaching position that just isn't going to attract the best managers. Nobody of any real calibre is going to want that job. And so I think there's real questions about the direction of Chelsea as a club.
I'm really curious, Graham, about that last statement, and I'm not totally sure if I'm on board with that in the grand scheme of things. But as far as this particular position is concerned, it was a delight to hear you sound like me for a little bit throughout the most of that. I'm very, very encouraged by that. I mean, a lot of the reporting was this happened because the results forced Chelsea's hand, right? That's how a lot of the reporting was framed. No, it didn't. Nothing forced Chelsea's hand. Like Blueco could have done something different in this situation. All of the framing was, well, if they're going to go out and make the rest of the season a success, if they're going to hop into the Champions League, they're not. That ship has sailed. Like I feel pretty confident in that at this stage. That is not going to happen, whether or not Liam Rosenior is in charge of this team. I had to do it for Ryan.
Nailed it.
Like I just don't think there's any semblance of reality there. This is a move that is being made because they're embarrassed. Because Chelsea's ownership are embarrassed and they want to save face. That's all this is. And I completely agree with Graham, because Graham is agreeing with me, that we're not going to see drastic change from the next coach, right? Ultimately, it is a game that belongs to the players, and Chelsea's players are just not. I mean, maybe a fully fit Chelsea team is not seventh. What are they, 7th on the table right now? I mean, that's not 8th on the table right now. Excuse me. That is not maybe a truest reflection of where this squad is. I rate this group of players when fully fit higher than this. But the reality is there is a gulf, and there is a clear model difference in what Chelsea is trying to do, which is go incredibly young and hope for high upside and maybe make a little bit of money in the transfer market, which is exceedingly difficult to do, and where the actual true contenders seem to be in the Premier League right now. Chelsea can make all these chops and changes that they want. They can go and hire 12 new managers, and that situation is going to be the same.
Yeah, The Athletic had a breakdown, Joe, of like the growing financial pressures that Chelsea are under like a couple of days ago, and that's obviously one of the things that Blueco, when they started, when they took over the club, they handed out these huge contracts, they sold their own women's team and hotels that they owned and all the rest of it. And I think at the time we all thought, this is a little bit peculiar, but these are smart people, they must know what they're doing on some level. And actually, it turns out they probably don't, because Chelsea are now $2 billion in the hole over the last 4 years alone. They can't expand their stadium easily. They've siphoned off a lot of the assets that they could sell to make the books look a little bit better. And this is the part, coming back to your point, Joe, about like where their team is right now in terms of the personnel, in terms of the individuals that they have. This is the part of the project where they should have a vibrant team of thriving young talent, where they can look at the team and say, okay, well, we spent all this money, but look at what we've got. Do they have that at the moment? This is the team that Chelsea started against Brighton on Tuesday. Robert Sanchez, Jarrell Hato, Trevoh Chalobah, Wesley Fofana, Malo Gusto, Mark Cucurella, Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia, Pedro Neto, Enzo Fernandez, and Liam Delap. Good players, but how many of them are genuinely elite? I would say one, possibly two. And they're the two that they paid over £100 million for, Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo. So there's no upside in those deals. The whole thing is a mess. I don't know what their direction is right now, Chelsea.
Yeah, I will say I am, and I think I have been kind of warmer on Chelsea just in terms of their squad than maybe everybody else on this show. I look at their squad right now, and health is a real concern, right? But I think between Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Reece James, Cole Palmer, and Estevao, those players are top, right? Like those players can win
for sure.
Can be on a Champions League winning team starting games.
It's just Palmer and Estevao didn't start in that game, but that's
of course.
a fair point.
Yeah,
They've got like
absolutely.
4 elite players.
I think they have real talent. Like I think the bones of a squad that can contend are there. The problem is, and this is sort of the discussion we've had previously, there's no reason to believe that the rest of those pieces are going to come in. Whether that's because now Chelsea are so deep in the financial hole, whether that's because they're sort of approaching this like a stock market, or whether it's because really acquiring those players in the first place is exceedingly difficult, and the odds are against them doing that. No matter which of those paths you take, it's unlikely that Chelsea fill out the rest of this roster. And so then as you look at this going forward, you think, okay, there's a decent team here. Like this team absolutely has the bones, especially with Liverpool in the position they're in, to be a team that makes it to the Champions League next season. But to be in a position where you're so utterly dependent on making the Champions League now that you have to flush even more money down the drain in hopes of saving face and maybe making it there is just zero about this entire situation that points to Chelsea being a well-run club.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the hiring of Rosenior in the first place, because, like, Graham, you ran through it and the kind of skepticism or concern around that appointment. I remember at the time it being sold as a selling point, that he doesn't really have one particular style. He's adaptable. He changes based on the opponent, based on the players he has, based on injuries, what have you. And at the moment, that's so you have this Chelsea team who seem to be all these disparate parts and like island of misfit toys with some maybe potential superstars in there. He can find a way to kind of mold them into a collective whole. I don't know if that happens very quickly. Not that he was going to figure out in the long term, but it feels like that was the selling point, and then really quickly it becomes the point of criticism of like, well, you don't have a style and a unified approach, and that's a problem now, when before it was a thing that was being sold. So in my mind, that further speaks to the kind of inconsistency in their messaging and decision-making. I am not the one to point this out. Alhambra, at paper_equity on Blue Sky, I believe, went through the list of Clearlake's distressed assets, and it feels appropriate in the context of this Chelsea team. Hoonigan, they invest $400 million in 2018. It goes bankrupt in September 2024. Pretium Packaging, bought by Clearlake in 2020, went bankrupt in 2026. Alkegan invested $1.7 billion in 2018, became distressed in September 2024. It just keeps going. I will spare you the list, but it is such a lengthy list of things that they've spent a ton of money in, where they clearly thought, we'll come in, we'll spend some money, we'll change this around, we'll streamline efficiency, and then we'll make it better than it already was. Oh, it's bankrupt. Oh, it's distressed. And even those players you mentioned, like Cole Palmer has been like demonstrably poor for months now. He definitely has the ability to be a world-class player, but in this Chelsea organization, I think he is regressing, and it feels like he has gone from a prized asset that somebody might pay over $100 million for to maybe a distressed asset that needs attention very quickly. And that, to me, gets to the heart of the matter, which is, I think, Clearlake, Blueco, whatever it is, they don't seem to be quite as smart or as knowledgeable on these things or as revolutionary in their thinking as maybe they might have thought coming in.
Well, hang on, Taylor. There is a lot of strategic planning going on here. Checking Sky Sports. Oh, Chelsea have no shortlisted, no number one candidate to replace Liam Rosenior. Oh, okay, right.
That's because they're going to use AI. They're just going to go full Clearlake, full private equity.
But I think, Graham, you made the point there that who would take this job now.
Yeah.
But you'd have to demand quite a lot of changes structurally before an elite manager took this job, right?
I believe so. I'll say my piece first,
Yeah.
because obviously I could be proven very wrong, and I've been proven wrong before with no elite manager's going to take the USMNT job, and then Poch turns up at the door, right? So the managers are different beings who have the ego to believe they're going to be the ones to turn things around. But I do believe the field will be limited by what Chelsea are as a club under Blueco, because ordinarily, given, I don't know, like the stature of the club and the budget and, everything else, the history, they'd be looking at, well, who would they be looking at? They'd be looking at Julian Nagelsmann. Luis Enrique has yet to sign a contract at PSG. There's tentative speculation swirling around him, so maybe he would be someone you look at. They'd be looking at the best qualified managers in the world. But I don't see why those managers would want the Chelsea job as it is now. So the names we've seen mentioned are Cesc Fabregas, who I think would be mad to take it. I think there's a chance, having seen what Fabregas has done at Como, and yeah, they've had a lot of money, but I think there's a chance he is a genuine elite manager in the making. He will get another offer. He's already turned down Inter Milan. They wanted Inter Milan.
Will he get a
before they got
6.5 year deal,
Kubic.
though, Graham? From
Well, that's the thing, yeah. He might not get a £24 million payout after 100 and whatever it is, 3 days Rosenior was sacked. But I think Fabregas would be mad to take this job. I think he'll get other offers. My complete hunch bet would be Felipe Luis, who did a great job at Flamengo, got them playing great football, and then was bizarrely sacked 3 games into this season. So I think you could make a case that he would take this job as a stepping stone into Europe. And then you've got like Areola and Glasner, who are out of contract at the end of the season, but there's questions about their style of play and whether that's the route that Chelsea want to go down with all these kind of young, technically able players that they've signed. So again, I've said this point already twice, but I'll repeat it. I do not know what Chelsea's direction is right now. I don't think they have one.
Yeah, I just think when you look at this squad, it's still one of the better jobs you can get. And the upside for being the one that has some measure of success, whether that is a quarterfinal Champions League appearance, whether that is finishing top 3 in the league next. I mean, whatever that bar is and however it's set, I think it's possible for someone to achieve that bar. Now, where Graham and I agree is that it is not in the top tier of jobs. There are too many factors swirling outside of you that you cannot control and probably are not going to go your way for it to be considered one of those jobs. But would it totally shock me if, I don't know, Xabi Alonso turned up in this post? Not really. I don't know. Seems possible.
I mean, it is possible. Of course it's possible. But I just think there has to be a point where the best managers are looking at Blueco's record with the managers that they've employed. And it's almost every single one. Like Thomas Tuchel, he's in the position, Blueco turn up and Tommy Tuchel goes, nah, I'm gone. See you later. Graham Potter comes in and he was a bit of a Liam Rosenior type who was hired to be the coach, didn't have much say. I don't think expected much say over how Chelsea were run. He didn't succeed. But then it was Pochettino who leaves with similar complaints to Thomas Tuchel, didn't like the way Chelsea were being run. Then it was Enzo Maresca who left because he didn't like the way Chelsea were being run and he didn't like being reduced to just a first team coach. And now you have Liam Rosenior who's experienced a lot of the same issues. So I just think the best manager should stay clear of Chelsea right now. Maybe in a few years once they figure things out, but not right now.
Oh dear. Well, maybe Liam Rosenior can move on to one of those distressed assets that Kulik had. He could manage a bank or something. I don't know.
Strasbourg.
Go back to Strasbourg. There we go. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're talking transfers. There's plenty buzzing around right now. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the Bulletin. It's April and we're talking transfers. Graham Ruthven, why in April are we talking transfers? Is stuff happening?
Because it's fun. That's why, Ryan. It's a guilty pleasure of all of ours. I always enjoy how much Joe enjoys transfer chat. It seems like it's like a character quirk
I'm
that
so juiced.
somehow doesn't make sense, but I love it all the same. And yeah, transfer chat never stops, if we're being honest. But as we're edging closer to the summer transfer window, we're starting to get some more meat on the bones of the gossip that's been hanging around for a little while. And I'm going to start with what I think is going to be a big storyline heading into this summer. So last summer was hot number 9 summer, and I think this summer is going to be all about central midfielders. Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, Tottenham as well, depending on what league they're in, of course. A number of others, I think they'll all be in the market for at least one, in some cases more than one, central midfielder each. And we already know some of the names that they're looking at. So it feels like Elliot Anderson is going to be the big prize. I am shocked at how rapidly he has developed over the last 2 seasons. I wasn't that bothered when he turned down Scotland, or he did one training session with Scotland and decided that wasn't for him. I thought, we've got better players. Turned out I was wrong
That's the
about
exact
that.
moment he got better, by the way.
That was, yeah.
As soon as he walked away, he was like, what are these powers I suddenly have? Wow, this is so
Yeah.
strange.
It's quite the... What's the opposite of a curse? A spell?
Blessing.
Quite the spell.
Blessing.
There we go. But yeah, he looks ready for that next
I
jump
love
in his
that Graham
career.
didn't know the blessing was an opposite of a curse.
I've never
There's a lot of
considered what
characters.
the
Ryan, he's Scottish.
I've never considered what the opposite of a curse is.
What is
Yeah.
joy? What is this? What is this emotion?
Sorry, you said fried food. Okay, got it.
Sorry, Graham. Please continue.
So Elliot Anderson, he rejected the fried food north of the border and in Newcastle. And yeah, he looks ready for that next jump. He'll probably be a starter for England at the World Cup. The reporting is that Forest want £100 million for him. I think they'll get that, or close to that. Manchester City are believed to be leading the race for him. That's been the case for a number of months, although Manchester United and Liverpool apparently like him as well. Everyone likes Elliot Anderson. I think he improves all of those teams that I have mentioned. Just very quickly, a couple of others. Adam Wharton, he's another one. Another player whose development has been rapid, could be part of the England squad at the World Cup. I think he's slightly different to Anderson. Anderson's a bit more of kind of like a box-to-box midfielder, although he does have a deep starting position. I think Wharton needs to be a little bit more careful about the role he's been asked to play for a new team at a bigger club than Palace. But I'm a big fan, and he could have his pick of a number of clubs as well. Then there's Carlos Baliba, who the Athletic is reporting is still of interest in Manchester United. They weighed up a big offer for Baliba last summer, but couldn't make the numbers work at that point. It was a bit like 100 million. The interesting thing about Baliba is that he hasn't had a great season, and that fee has apparently come down to around £50 million, which is what the Athletic is reporting. So I think he could be good value for a number of clubs, including Manchester United.
His value dropped by half.
Apparently so, yep. I mean, the Athletic said 50 million in the report yesterday, and 100 million was the number I remember from last summer that Manchester United couldn't make work. So, yep, that would... And I think that's what smart clubs often will wait it out and sign a good player at a distressed, just not Chelsea. They don't do any
Smart
of that.
clubs and Manchester United.
Well, okay, sorry to interject on Graham's list of center mids. As I was reading more and more about these links, Taylor, my overwhelming impression was that pretty much all the players that Manchester United are linked to make a lot of sense for them.
Yep.
And it's kind of deeply unsettling, Graham.
Yep.
Just
Except
on
for
that,
Tchouaméni. I would say Tchouaméni does not. That feels
Tchouaméni.
That feels like the standard. Like, if people are not familiar, this is like the Real Madrid player with contract expiring blueprint. Is have your agent link you to Manchester United because they are historically the one that will sign big money Real Madrid players, or will try to for lots of money. Some Barca players do this as well, but it's an easy way to drum up your value and then get a new contract on the back of it. He is the only one that I'm like, this is a clear new contract grab more than anything else.
Yeah,
the other ones I'm pretty stoked about.
Yeah, but the BBC reported on Wednesday that Manchester United do have that strong interest in Tchouaméni. And Joe, just on your point, the last couple windows that Manchester United have had, I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
Last summer, Man United had an excellent transfer window. Their signings were Mateus Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo, Benjamin Sesko, who have all to varying degrees made. Sesko's been better than I thought he would be. I think he's developing well. Yeah, you can take your victory lap, Joe.
Broken clock. Graham, broken.
But, this is the thing with Manchester United. Who was the other player that they signed? Seny Lamens, who's been one of the best signings of the summer. In the January window before that, their two signings were Patrick Dorgu and Aiden Heaven for next to nothing comparatively. Both those players look good as well. So maybe Man United have turned a bit of a corner.
And it's not even just the players that they're linked to. It's also that the areas of need are seemingly going to be addressed. Where you go through, and it's been logical, where in the last window you see them address goalkeeper, as you said, Graham, and you see them address the attack. Now you look, and Casemiro's going to be on the way out. Thank the heavens, right? I think that's what Manchester United should be saying. Not that he's a bad player, but it's time, and that's going to give them some budget flexibility. And Ugarte is just not that dude, and that was never a good idea to begin with. And so you're going to look at Manu in a role next year, and you're going to need more in that part of the field. Ideally, so that Bruno Fernandes can be liberated to do even more stuff. And you run through this list, and there's a lot of good players on the list, regardless of whether the Tchouaméni thing is real or not. I didn't have my skeptic hat on quite like Taylor, but Taylor's got more wisdom on that front. But the list of players, I mean, if it's Anderson, if it's Baleba, if it's Tchouaméni, if it's Wharton, if it's even Mateus Fernandes at West Ham or some of these other players, there's a lot of quality on that list. And then the other name, in a different position, is Mickey van de Ven, which Manchester United aren't going to be the only ones chasing. But I mean, Van de Ven would be a phenomenal addition, whether that is for whether that is for Manchester United. Liverpool would be very, very savvy to pick him up. It's going to be a lot of dough for whoever it is that ends up going in for Van de Ven. But the positions of need make sense, and the players that are being linked to are players who could slot in and help Manchester United push even further than they did this year. So it's weird feeling like Manchester United are doing smart things, but that is very much my impression right now.
I feel like you are trying to give me hope. I don't like it.
Van de Ven. I mean, there'll be so many players that, especially if Spurs go down, like it'll be a fire sale of the players that people want. They'll be fielding inquiries all over the place. They might even be asking, how much is Udogie in the window? That was it.
Nice. I mean, it's great.
I don't know if that was worth it.
No, it was.
The pain that caused me tells you how good of a pun that was. Well done, my friend.
I think we'll keep you instead of your brother for that alone.
Oh, thanks. I've earned my keep for the summer. But yeah, in amongst that pun, there was a sincere point that Spurs is going to be one to watch, and how many players flee that ship this summer.
Even if they stay up, like, do you feel like there are any players that they would confidently say, like, no, we can build around him. He's been strong. He's been stable. Like, Van de Ven's been great. I understand. Well, he's been good and then okay and then questionable.
He's been terrible recently,
like,
but I have faith he's still
But I
good.
think, like, he's still going to attract a lot of attention. Clubs are going to want him. If you are Tottenham, I feel like regardless of if you stay up or go down, you might want to be like clearing the decks a little bit and just kind of like coming back with a leaner, hungrier side, if that's even possible. I just don't know who there is there that they will kind of look at as like, that's the guy we have to hold on to no matter what. I really don't know if that player exists.
All right. Can we talk about Mo Salah, by the way? We don't know where he's going to end up next season, do we? Although we suspect it will be
Columbus.
Columbus, maybe their NWSL outfit, which we'll talk about later. Do Liverpool actually need to replace him?
Yes.
Are they going to get a megastar in, or are they just going to get some 18-year-old who's amazing from their academy to come through?
Not the second thing. Could they get an 18-year-old who's amazing from somewhere? That does seem possible, but they absolutely need more depth and more quality in the wings. I mean, looking forward to next year, you have Ekitike's injury, so he's basically a non-factor for a huge chunk of next season. You have Mo Salah leaving, and then who are your true wide attacking options? You have Cody Gakpo, you have Rio,
Chiesa.
Yeah, that's my tone
correct,
should tell you.
But, yep, he's still there.
And that's it, right? Effectively, unless you're going to play Frimpong higher.
Rio and Gamoa would be the other one as well.
I said it.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Joe.
No, it's okay. I mean, like, your options are very, very thin. And I know that Slot has toyed around with some tactical things to adapt and shift his team. I think without Ekitike, that stuff's going to be a whole lot harder to have cover in the wide areas, because previously you could have imagined Ekitike playing on the left, or I mean, really even wider on either side. And then you have Gakpo floating in those roles as well, and maybe that's enough balance. I just don't. It's not there. Both starting level quality and depth isn't there right now, to the point where I'm wondering if we might see Liverpool sign two wingers. That doesn't seem maybe the most likely outcome, but I absolutely need to move for someone. I would love for them to go out and get Yan Diomande, because he is electric. But even that is quite risky, because he's still super raw, and you don't have a super clear picture of what he's going to look like at this level. And if Liverpool want to be contender next year, and they've spent like they do, and they have other areas to address as well, that's a huge question mark.
He's the player who's been pushed to the front so far, Yan Diomande. His story is incredible. He was playing high school soccer in Florida 18 months ago.
All super normal, non-agent driven stuff right there. Very, very good, like cool, clean transfer movement at a young age that I'm sure wasn't bad or wrong at all.
I guess it's worked to a certain extent. He was at Leganés B team last season, and now he is not just starting, but starring for RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga. And apparently RB Leipzig want 100 million euros for him, which seems a lot, but PSG are reportedly sniffing around as well. So I think this could be a bit of a saga. And I agree with Joe. I think Liverpool do need another, particularly a right winger. Certainly. The only way that maybe they wouldn't is if we're talking like fundamental formation change, and let's just say it's Xabi Alonso who comes in this summer, which is a possibility, I guess, and he does the full Leverkusen shape, and he has Frimpong on the right wing, high and wide, and then like two forwards or two number 10s and a centre forward. I guess that could maybe work, but I still feel like they're going to want a proper right wing option once Salah leaves.
Yeah, and if they go, sorry, Taylor, go.
I was going to say, I'm not sure he fully fits that bill, because I think he's left winger but has a right foot. I feel like there's also the idea that past is precedent. They're going to go after these young, exciting youngsters who cost 100 to 150 million, and ultimately they're going to go kick the tires on Newcastle and see what Anthony Gordon falls out.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. That's what Liverpool like to do. They're going to wait and see what two players Newcastle want, and then they're just going to sign both and Anthony Gordon.
If Liverpool do end up shifting into that back three with maybe a couple of half space attackers underneath a 9, they're probably still going to need a wingery type of player, right? Who can be in those half spaces, and then they're also even going to need a center back even harder than they do now, where they already need center backs. So they kind of needed it before, and I guess they sort of addressed it in the window, and injuries hampered them a little bit. But even so, Liverpool are certainly a team to watch this summer, because they've got holes on both sides of the field, and then also maybe even in central midfield, which is crazy given how much they spent in this last window, and a reminder that maybe, as we said at the time, that the spending didn't make the most sense.
Yeah, and also even in the goalkeeper position, and this is one that I haven't seen reported by kind of like the reputable British sources yet, but in Italy they are hot on
Yeah.
the trail of Alison Becker to Juventus. So I kind of wonder if Liverpool are thinking of moving. He's just so injury prone, Alisson. Like, he's great, but he misses a huge number of games every single season. So do they replace him, or do they see Mamardashvili as the kind of natural successor to him?
Or do they have Szczesny from not too long ago, like actively smoking cigarettes in goal? And they're like, I mean, if that's fine, we can deal with hamstrings or whatever it is. The Alisson signing is like the most Juve signing I can
Correct.
think of. Like, that has to happen. It just feels too on the nose to not happen. I think Liverpool, if they do need a wide attacker that could, make them better theoretically, I'm doing a public service here. I think Jadon Sancho might be available. So they're welcome to come in for an offer for him if need be.
Marvellous. One more thing while we're talking transfers.
You guys are no fun.
Barcelona. Bobby Lewandowski bowing out probably this summer.
Yep.
What if you're Harry Kane and you've done it all with Bayern Munich already? You win the World Cup this summer. You get the Ballon d'Or. What's stopping you from I'm making some presumptions there, but what would stop you from going to Spain and trying to win it all there as well? It seems like a pretty nice.
Literally
fit.
do a Lewandowski, like the same decision that he did.
Yeah,
I've done everything here.
With fewer
Let's go
TikToks.
with fewer TikToks, yeah.
I mean, PTSD is my answer to that. Like, if you spent so long in London chasing titles and trying to win silverware and trying to find some level of consistency and it just never comes together, and then you move to a club where all you do is win, do you get bored of that, or are you just always enjoying it because it took so long for you to start winning silverware? It seems like it tends to be the case that they end up getting bored and moving on, but Harry Kane might be one where he's like, no, I know what it is to chase silverware unsuccessfully. I'll stay right here and win everything possible all the time.
He seems to have a pretty good thing going at Bayern Munich. And also, I'm kind of hopeful that Barcelona, through no fault of their own, if that's the right term, have ended up in a pretty good spot right now, thanks to their academy. And so I'm kind of hopeful that they might not go and get like a veteran. As brilliant as Kane is, I just think there are other targets out there that would probably cost as much money who might be like a better long-term fit. And I'm talking about Julian Alvarez, who is he's the dream striker for Barcelona, and that story has been bubbling away for a while. And Alvarez hasn't been the happiest at Atleti this season, so he might want that move. Apparently, Atleti want as much as 120 million euros. Can Barca get anywhere near that money? Their finances are in better shape at the moment, but they're still spending a fortune on that building site that they call a stadium. So, yeah, it won't be easy. And then the question becomes, well, if it's not Alvarez, who else is feasible? Sergio Girassi has been mentioned quite consistently, as has Edmilson at Bournemouth as well. But then, are either of those two guys better than Ferran Torres,
No.
who I think has developed a lot over the last couple of years, and it has been Barcelona's first choice striker this year over
Right.
the most part of the season. So I think there's a lot for Barcelona to consider.
But at a certain point, it's not about finding someone who can be better than Ferran Torres. Like, if you can't get Kane or Alvarez, you probably just need a body up top, and you need a body that can help you win Champions League games. But you're not reasonably looking for a top-tier striker at that point because you're not going to find one. So I think we got to look at this framing in a couple of different ways. The first is that they're going to be very selective, looking for one of the absolute elite strikers on the planet. And the second is we're looking for another body because literally we are going to need it to survive the season. You can't just enter a season with Ferran Torres and nobody else at the 9 spot if Lewandowski leaves. But we'll have to adjust our expectations based off of who actually ends up signing.
Speaking of bodies that are available, look, Barcelona, there's this guy, Jadon Sancho, and I want to talk to you about him for a second, because you've already done the one reclamation project with Marcus Rashford. Let's go 2 for 2.
And he's seemingly going back to Manchester United after that. So they can have Sancho for a season, then the bomb squad reassembles 12 months later anyway.
Playing the greatest hits. Let's get Garnacho in there. Let's not get Garnacho in there.
Wonderful. Let's take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to talk about Columbus' new NWSL team. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome to the Bulletin. It's time that we say Ohio. Ohio to a
No.
new... No? No?
I quite like that.
Thanks. Columbus 2028 will be the 18th club in NWSL. Joe, is this exciting? It sounds exciting.
I am excited about this. It has been fascinating to see the NWSL expand at a very, very rapid pace. Atlanta was just announced not long ago as the 17th expansion team into the NWSL, owned by Arthur Blank and that whole project, so there'll be a sister club there of Atlanta United. And now we have Columbus, a record $205 million expansion fee. That expansion fee is nearly double the $110 million that Denver Summit FC, who debuted this year, they paid last year. It's $40 million higher than that Atlanta fee that Arthur Blank paid. It was $165 million. That was 6 months ago. So I suppose the lesson is here, you should have tried to buy an NWSL franchise before now to the Haslam family and everybody else in that ownership group. But this is the NWSL continuing to try to capitalize on the momentum that they've gained. And as the NWSL faces a lot of big questions, like, are we really going to put our foot down and obviously become the best league in the world where almost all of the good players on the planet are playing, which is imminently possible for these incredibly wealthy people who own these teams, and given that still women's elite soccer players are not paid all that much in the grand scheme of sports? Is the league going to go that direction? Is the league going to shift their calendar? What is the actual end point for the NWSL in terms of expansion? All of those things are swirling, but we are seeing new teams join, and I think Columbus is a city that will absolutely show out. They'll be playing at Scott's Miracle Grow field, I believe is what it's called.
I'm not feeling that
Downgrade,
one,
isn't it? Yeah, it's just been a real downgrade.
The turf has to be absolutely superb for that name to work.
I think it is, to be fair. Having been there multiple times, even before the name change, it looks great. So I think it's a case of you just kind of carry on the legacy of what came before. Mm-hmm. There is a bit of drama around this, and this is when a lot of these things end up being messy, right? Because these are big projects, and there's a lot of competing interests at play. And oftentimes, I don't know if you guys have noticed this in life, the whims of the people with all the money trump the whims of people who don't have a lot of the money. I've kind of noticed that trend happening. So there is a bit of
me all the time.
I don't know.
It's really
I'm
annoying.
pretty sure it's the population of Siberia that owns Chelsea. So you might be wrong with that, Joe.
Okay, well, I didn't consider that, and I'm not even sure how to yes and that. So I'm just going to move on and say simply that there's public money that's being used to build a new training facility that will be used strictly for this women's team. So the men's team has their training facility. Now the women's team will have their own training facility, and then they'll share a stadium. Share the stadium. Where this training facility is going to be is at a place called McCoy Park, which was previously earmarked to actually be a public park for an incredibly disadvantaged area in Columbus. There's been a lot of phenomenal reporting on this topic from the Columbus Dispatch. The folks over there do a fantastic job, and you should support local journalism and go read more about all this. But there are some pretty scathing quotes coming out of a city council meeting that was quite testy earlier on this week. There was a quote that said, I would say how many girls are going to be on that soccer team and utilizing that soccer facility versus how many kids do we have in Columbus in this area that could use that park. There were actual people voting on this that talked about how difficult it was for them to actually make this decision, and they felt like they had no way to win in this scenario. I mean, it's kind of sad at the end of the day to see something like this happen. Also, weird confliction, because I do feel like this is going to be a cool thing that could be quite good for the community and has real benefit, but things are complicated in life, and I do very much feel for those people that seemingly had a real community asset, if not totally ripped away from them, at the very least kicked well down the road.
Yeah,
you mentioned Joe,
right? Because they could. I think the plan is still to find new area in the vicinity to build a park or to make sure that the
Haslam should be paying for a bunch of that, if not all of it as well.
Yeah.
So.
And so you can't have that. I'm a little bit torn in that way, Joe, because on the one hand, I like a park. People, as they said, people need to be able to walk their dogs and have green space and get out and have kind of shared community areas. But here in Richmond, we had a large parcel of land in downtown area essentially given to the Washington football team for their preseason training camp. Did they light it? No, because that way they don't have to let anybody else use it for the rest of the year. And then after a couple of years, they decided, now we want to move somewhere else where we can get even more money. And now you have this just kind of vacant thing that ends up getting used some of the time, but isn't really a park, but isn't really private either. And it just kind of sits there. And I think people have found a way to use it. But by contrast, when you have the guarantees in place that the crew and the NWSL team can't leave and are going to be there and the training facility is going to be there, you would assume that it will help generate some level of interest, some level of revitalization, which maybe then airs into gentrification, and that it's its own issue. But at the very least, it is a facility that's being used to somewhat benefit the sporting community of the local community, I guess, versus we're giving a free facility to an organization that can definitely afford it for 3 weeks out of the year, and then the rest of the time it sits vacant. I think by Washington football team standards, Columbus is doing okay.
Yeah. Here in Charlotte, by the way, we turn all of our green space into apartments, breweries, or Chase Bank locations.
Right.
So
Shocker.
It's better than that.
Done by
that.
people
Yeah,
in
that checks out.
classic business vests, of course.
Naturally. Joe, you mentioned the expansion fee as well, that $205 million. I saw a good stat from Simon Evans, a good soccer business journalist, who said in the space of just 6 years, so going back a bit further than you did, NWL expansion fees have risen 100-fold because it was $2 million for Los Angeles 6 years ago.
Wow.
It's 205. So that's quite a lot. I'm looking forward to when Clear Lake buy one for like $1 billion in 2 years.
And then
you think
hire
that's
and fire Liam. That sounds good.
Do we think that these owners are ever going to get their value? I mean, that's a question about MLS as well. Like, what are we up to? $500 million? That was the San Diego fee, right? Charlotte was like 350 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So a question about MLS as well. But like $205 million for an NWSL expansion spot. I just don't know what the return on that is.
Yeah.
I know the league is growing, but that is extraordinary.
Yeah, I know for a fact that there are people in the business that are quite skeptical about that, Graham. Maybe there's some sort of valuation bubble that's happening here with the NWSL. I mean, still their TV situation is in a better spot than it's been ever before, but it is almost the polar opposite of MLS's, which is that it is so incredibly disparate, and there's so many people at the table that it seems inaccessible in a very different way. And then the finances of that still have some room to grow. And then you have the question of, this is a similar MLS question, are the owners in the room at the table actually going to fight to continue to push the league forward? Are owners in Houston and Utah and Chicago going to do this, or are they going to scratch and claw and keep the league away from actually hitting the ceiling that it has? So I think there's a lot of existential questions that the NWSL is facing right now. The one thing that seems absolutely sure is that if you're in a city that has either a stadium now or a sightline on a stadium and has somebody who's willing to both pay an expansion fee that is going to be trending towards, it seems like $250 million before too long, maybe more than that. If you have somebody who's willing to put up that money and to run one of these teams, you can have one, because this is the exact same discussion that we're having around MLS. The NWSL has no incentive to turn down these sorts of deals. And at the moment, I don't really see a problem with them continuing to expand. But there are real questions about sort of what comes next for the league and exactly where these things are going.
It's almost as if the entire US economy is a giant bubble. The Dow's at 50,000 and there's absolutely no fundamentals to support it. Yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
Almost.
I could see it.
Joe,
Wonderful.
like the expansion fees, they work the way they do in Major League Soccer, correct? So they are
Yes.
like redistributed around the league. So those
Correct.
teams that might be clawing to keep things as they are financially benefiting from the expansion fees, yes?
Oh, without a doubt. And,
Yeah,
and
think
when
about
I
like
say
the
keep,
pyramids and there's you funnel money in the top.
It's
It's a trapezium.
It's a reverse
Yeah,
funnel
that's
system,
it.
Graham. It's a reverse
Right.
funnel system.
right.
Thank you very much.
Just turn the picture over and then maybe you'll see. Yes, Taylor. To clarify what I mean by that, I don't mean that Utah's ownership doesn't want to see other
yeah,
teams join the NWSL. I just mean the Utah's ownership doesn't want to spend more money likely on that team than they absolutely have to, and that's the question of how are they going to spend to actually move the league's product forward, and really how much does that matter, and all those calculations that we talk about all the time.
Sorry, I think I was unclear. I understood you entirely. I just think it's like the height of hypocrisy if they are like, as they're accepting a briefcase full of money, to be like, this is not good for us, though. We can't be just like, and like handing it off. Like, it's sort of like, you guys are financially benefiting from this. Maybe spend some money and keep the product growing. Just saying.
Very good. Do we have any? We don't have a name yet, do we, for this franchise?
No, we do not.
Scots, Miracle Grow United, I think, or what? Yeah.
Presented by.
I have a question
Lowe.com.
that seems to be polarizing. Like, when teams add women's teams, they tend to, like, keep the naming convention. So, like, I saw, like, the idea that, I think it was, like, a tongue-in-cheek idea that, it would be the Columbus Crew, but with an E at the end, which is, like, a thing that some teams will do. Or you'll find ways
like
to kind of,
Crew
like,
Alexandra.
feminize the team
what we're
name.
thinking.
Do we like when they do that, or would we prefer, like... I think I like it,
Columbus
maybe not
gang.
the naming side, but I like the color scheme, the consistency in the organization. But I think some would prefer that they be their own entity under the same umbrella.
I think that the crest should be a female worker in a hard hat.
There you go. Rosie the Riveter.
There we go.
I
Perfect.
need another one for my patch on my wall here. I've got the Columbus Crew one. I need the
There you
NWSL one.
go.
I think it depends on the execution, Taylor. I don't think there's an like a catch-all answer to that. I think and this is where Portland fans tell me I'm wrong, but when I went to I did a Timbers, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before. I went to Portland and watched a Timbers game, but then went to a Thorns game the next day. Same ownership of at the time, and the cross pollination I think was a healthy thing for those two franchises. I see similarities with Columbus being a proven soccer community and hotbed, so I think they kind of got a head start in that regard, and so I think it makes sense to kind of combine the two. But I think the identity of the team needs to communicate something fresh. I still
There
think
we
he
go.
needs to do that.
I like that because what I'm envisioning is like in Letterkenny, the local hockey team is the Shamrocks, the Letterkenny Shamrocks, and then the women's hockey team is the Shamrockettes, prompting a lot of question about what is a Shamrockette, and if it's like the Cruette, I would be disappointed if that's what Columbus went with.
I wouldn't sweat it, Taylor.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. But
Okay.
hey, we've been wrong.
Then I
before.
won't. Done. No more
Scots,
sweating.
miracle,
Look,
grow
here's what
united.
I'd like to say to the Cruettes. There's this player, Jadon Sancho, and I think he'd really be helpful for your organization.
Listening.
205
It
million.
worked in Ladybugs, a not at all problematic movie. I believe also She's the Man. I think that was another one where it went the other way. Let's make it happen.
Interesting. Only one of those projects had Vinnie Jones involved, though. So,
White chicks.
all right, time to end. Thank you very much. That is the bulletin. Taylor Rocco, thank you very much indeed for your contributions, naming convention-wise and all others.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe Lowry. A pleasure, sir.
Hey, thanks, Ryan.
And Graham, our favourite Rutherford for now. Thank you very much.
For now. Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
Listener, thank you again for joining us on this one. We'll be back on the feed terribly shortly. But for now, bye!